The Walking Dead, the show that made the zombie apocalypse a household worry. Whether you love it or you hate it, you have got to admit that this show is a big deal. Now, while things have changed quite a bit since we saw Sheriff Rick Grimes awake from a coma, one thing has stayed constant is the fear of seeing your favorite character being ripped apart, shot in the head, decapitated, knifed in the skull, degutted, getting the flu, dying in childbirth, ate by walkers or humans, starvation, dehydration, getting bit, getting an arrow through the eye, suicide, getting their head bashed in by a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire named Lucille, or even on top of all of this, cancer could get them. What I'm getting at is that people in this show die. Sometimes they come back and die again. So I'm here to tell you the deaths in this show that made me feel things, that made me either weep or get into a fit of rage, or even made me unable to shut my gaping mouth. So without further ado, here are my top 10 Walking Dead deaths. Spoiler alert. At number 10, I have Tyrese. While not being very true to his comic book counterpart, Tyrese still held a place in my heart. That's why it was especially tough to see him go. Taken by a walker in Season 5 while helping new group member Noah look for his family, let's just say they found Noah's family and they gave Tyrese a nice, warm, bitey welcome. As we sit with Tyrese in his final moments, we see former members of the group and former villains who have all died appear before him. The members of his group tell him it's all right and that he can let go. They sing and tell him comforting words before he drifts off to the other side. In the number 9 spot, I have not one, but 3 people. The Anderson family, minus Pete. Now you may be wondering who are the Andersons. You may know them by their first names, Jesse, Sam, and Ron. Still not enough info? Well, Jesse is Rick's sweetie pie, Ron is the jerk kid who got in a push fight with Carl and shot out his eye, and Sam is that weird kid who Carol threatened to tie to a tree and let him die. Up to speed? Good. Well, I grouped his family together because, well, they all died at the same time. When their home was overrun by walkers, Rick and co decided to cover themselves in walker guts and travel through the pack. Well, Sam wasn't able to keep his cool and freaked out in the middle of the horde, and let's just say it didn't end well for him. Jessie obviously can't stand the sight of her son being ripped apart in front of her, screams at the top of her lungs, causing nearby walkers to rip her to pieces. Rick's face in this moment is really what gets me. His hope of having a happy relationship in this world is destroyed in front of him, and his swelling eyes and quivering lips says it all. Now as for Ron, I wasn't sad to see him go. No, I'm glad he's dead. Now, Abraham is my number 8 spot. While his death, for me, wasn't terribly sad, more like brutal, it was overshadowed by another entry on my list due to them both dying in similar fashions at the similar time. Abraham was the fun one of the group, always cracking jokes and saying the weirdest things, but sadly, his time, just like everyone else on this list, was up. He was beaten down to a bloody pulp by Negan with his trusty bat Lucille. He took one for the team, but as we will see later on, that wasn't enough. On to number 7, we have everyone's favorite head-rubbing psychopath, Shane. Much like any great antagonist, Shane is a villain we love to hate. Going from being Rick's best friend and turning into his biggest threat at the time we see Shane go completely AWOL, and just when we think that he may come back on Rick's side, he lures him out into the woods and tries to kill him. Too bad for Shane, however, Rick is too smart, and after an emotional conversation between the two, Rick did what he had to do and put down his best friend like a rabid dog. We're left there weeping and feeling shocked as Rick screams into the night. Number 6 is the sweet young man who just wanted everyone to be okay, but ended up getting people he loved killed instead. I'm talking, of course, about Noah. When trapped in the revolving door with zombies on one side, it's safe to assume that it's not going to end well. When the plan to get out of the doors goes wrong, because of a certain undesirable's inability to keep his cool causes Noah to be pushed into the horde of zombies, we felt immediate hatred for Nicholas, the undesirable mentioned before. But our hatred turned to fear and disgust as we see Noah's face pressed against the revolving glass door, as he is ripped apart, his screams filling the air, and poor Glenn is sat there watching in horror as his friend is torn to shreds. Also, Tyler James Williams, who played Chris on Everybody Hates Chris, playing Noah, well, you could say that everybody ate Chris. So on to number 5, we again have more than one victim here. 2 little girls. One who went crazy and killed her sister, and then that sister, who I just mentioned, who did nothing wrong and was killed because, well, her sister was crazy. I'm talking about Lizzie and Mika. Two innocent girls who got caught up in the roulette wheel of death that is this show. Lizzie, the crazy one, believes the walkers are not bad people. They're just, dead people that are okay. Why does she think this? Because she's crazy. She killed her sister and then wanted to wait for her to come back to life so she could play with her. Oh, and did I mention she almost killed a baby too? Because she almost killed a baby. Still, you can't hate her because she's just a kid, right? And it doesn't make it better when we see a mice of men style way Carol putting down Lizzie by shooting her in the back of the head. On to number 4. This is the one that really got me. And I'm not ashamed to say I cried myself to sleep when Beth died. After being separated from the group for so long, we think that she's going to make it out okay when they finally come to her rescue. But sadly, this is The Walking Dead. You know what that means. It means Beth has got to go. In a final hurrah, she stabs the vile woman who has been holding her captive, causing Beth to have her brains popped out the back of her skull. What really got me here is not that Beth was gone, but it was everyone around her reacting to her being gone, especially Daryl and poor Maggie. And while we're talking about the Green family, let's talk about Beth's dad, shall we? Herschel was as wise and as jolly as Father Christmas. And not to mention, he looked like him too. So it's really horrible to watch a man that brings us nothing but joy and hope getting decapitated on the front lawn of the group's home while his daughters and the rest of the group watch helpless to stop it. Herschel was a great man, and he'll be remembered forever in my heart. But that was clear back in season 4. I've had time to heal, so let's dig into a new wound. One that's still fresh, maybe one that's right around the rib cage and affects the lives of millions. You already know I'm talking about Carl and his walker bite. Oh, Carl, why couldn't you just stay in the house like you were told? Our put-in-loving, walker-killing, hat-wearing 12-year-old boy who oddly looks 18 left us with scarred hearts and broken souls. Getting to spend the last moments he had trapped in the sewer with his family and friends, he got to say his goodbyes up until he did what we would expect Carl to do and take his own life before he turned. Let's just hope Judith stays safe with that hat you gave her. And now, before I move on to my number 1 spot, I want to give an honorable mention to Sophia. We didn't actually see her death, but watching her walker corpse walk out of the barn left me and a lot of other viewers empty inside for a long time. Now, on to the number 1 spot. It's Rick. Just kidding. He's still alive. For now. For my actual number 1 spot, it's Glenn. Where do I even start with Glenn? He was the happy guy who would do anything for anyone, even to go as far as forgiving those who opposed him and tried to kill him before. He was the nicest guy anyone could ever ask for, and sadly too nice for this world. He breathed his last breath the same day as Abraham while trying to protect Maggie from the big bad wolf named Negan. Just when we think Glenn's going to be safe from dying, Negan brought down the bat as hard as he could and cracked Glenn over the head. In a death that stayed very true to the comics, Glenn left us with the final words, "Maggie, I will find you." And we're still waiting for that reunion. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. I've been Tyler Landis, and I always will be.